Hello, welcome back to Unpicked, the semi-finals. I'm in a nice polo top ready to talk to you. All right, Ting, how are you?
Yes, I'm doing well, thanks.
It's good. 9 weeks. Where have they gone to?
Well, six of
Whiz,
them were my holidays.
it's true. Whizzed by. Well, as always, we talk about the previous week. We were utterly blown away by your comments. So many of them. A quick flash here on this screen. That is just a glimpse of some of them. 94 comments, Ting, all
Wow.
saying they agree. Because, of course, it was a big debate. I think it was fair. I hope that we were fair, analytical, and really looking at the commentary about the awarding of two garments of the week and of the made to measure. And many people were saying the same. And there were some lovely, I think, again, fair comments, all giving their opinions, which is what it's all about. We can say our opinions, it's just how we do them and how we deliver them. And reading those comments were amazing, Ting. Utterly blew me away, that
Mm.
episode. So clearly liked. Let's take a few look
Oh,
in detail. Linda says your YouTube is so much fun. Well, that's good to know, isn't it? And then just a couple looking at joint Garma of the week, which we know was a big discussion. Orla was so gracious about sharing, says SJ Vigal 9671. I can't believe they gave it to Kit as well for a baggy fancy dress non-fitted outfit, in my honest opinion. The only thing
mm.
that helped me through the shock was knowing that you both would throw slippers and call this out. But as they rightly say, Kit has some amazing makes, but this in my mind did not fit the brief, which is what the discussion was all about. And next one, Neil, forget the slippers. This episode of Sewing Bee almost required the entire contents of a shoe cupboard. Now, T, this a couple of points were raised on Esme use of the word mumsy. Let's have just a look at this and see what you think. The Seam Guide says, great discussion. Agree wholeheartedly that Gainer's card was marked by Esme from the start, referring to her gathers as mumsy. The trend for gathers and puffs has been riding high for a couple of years now. Her made to measure was beautiful. Just don't get it. Slipper. And
Well,
then this one on
yeah,
the
but
mumsy. Another one. Hang on. The judges, Esme, think that women should wear very revealing clothes at a party is an assumption and a bias. The idea is outdated because I think that women want to wear a range of outfits. And again, here we go, Ting. The comment mumsy, as many have commented, is so ageist and cruel. Are we only dressing 20-year-olds? So what do you say, Ting?
what I was going to say on the previous one
Oh, yeah.
is you only have to go back 2 or 3 weeks or whatever it was, and the whole thing was about gathers and putting gathers in. So, you can't have an episode where I think we moaned about the amount of gathers that went into the outfit and whether they had enough time to do all of that. And then you get 2 weeks later, someone's putting gathers in and being told it looks
Yeah.
mumsy. I think up until last week, we had been very much on the like, oh, this is different, this is better. We were.
Yes.
I think our
Absolutely.
viewers were getting frustrated at the lack of slippers that were flying. But then last week, it would just seem to out of the tin and everywhere, everything came at once, and everyone just got so frustrated. And I think that didn't help. It just built the
Yeah.
frustration across the whole episode, so that
Yeah.
when you got to the end, people were probably more outraged than what they should have been. But we've had two winners before, and I think we moaned about that as well because at the end of the day, you're being paid to be a judge. But there was just seemed to be this snowball effect of things, going right from the start with comments like this and contradicting, like I said a couple of episodes ago, where gathers were all the thing and had to be put in to the garment, to them being told, well, no, no, they're not. Well, I know fashion goes around quickly, but I didn't think it was like 2 weeks.
True. And then who's this? Janet carries on saying
No, we did this one, yeah.
the shift away from good sewing and great clothes towards fashion school or Project Runway vibe is hurting the show, in my humble opinion. So many women make their own clothes feel liberated because they don't have to be dictated by the fashion industry.
Yeah.
But I did read that in the comments, and I thought actually that was an interesting discussion to be had on that word, mumsy. And then Anna, I think that's Anna. I struggle to read the YouTube username sometimes. Thank you for remembering the audience. This is what you mentioned towards the end, Ting. Thank you for remembering the audience that the participants are just normal people in a contest that is edited and produced for our entertaining value. And we do try to remind them of that, don't we?
Yeah, and I know sometimes we might get a bit lost as well, but we've always tried to not, attack individual contestants, because that could easily be me or you sat there.
Yeah.
A lot of last week, we said while there was frustrations about whether Kit's outfit met the brief, and you may or may not have agreed with that, and you may or may not have agreed with me or us or whatever, but there was still the issue over the way the show was edited, and the way the show was judged. And as far as I'm concerned, the judges are up for it because they're paid to be there. So I don't mind criticising the judges and whether I think what they've done is wrong and everything like that. They're being paid to do this job. They could walk away if they want to. But a contestant has put themselves, their head above the parapet. They've got onto this show. They're just trying to show off what they can do. And sometimes, because it's a production company wanting entertainment value, they focus a bit too much on, are we going to get the views, as instead of, is this fair on the person that we're editing into this situation.
What also I think is good to talk about is a couple of not for a long while, but on YouTube comments. I've had a couple of comments in the shop, but I think on previous seasons we would often have comments with, "Oh, why do you analyse it so much? Why can't you just watch it for an entertainment programme?" And I think, well, actually, why can't we analyse it? Because you look at football, right? And the analysis after every football match that TV production companies put in with fast forward, slow motion rewind, pundits talking about it. They love the talking and the analysis after it, and putting the manager under spotlight, or why that team did that, or why that player did that. Why can't we do that about a craft that we all love and further that discussion?
Well, all that's happening is the audience get to see what you and I would say, because if we weren't sat on this video now, the conversation we had last night and we're about to have would be exactly the same. All we're doing is inviting other people in to join us. I'd still be throwing slippers even if we weren't talking about it on YouTube, and you would have known about it last night on the text messaging. So all we're doing is inviting people into our opinion. If you don't like it, I always say there's an off button. You don't need to watch
indeed. But I think it's a great opportunity to talk about it, because some people don't have sewing friends local. Some people don't have sewing friends. So where do you get to have that chat and that lovely discussion about, oh, you thought that was good, but you didn't think that was good. Why is that? And then having those discussions, which we would have at school the next day, talking about the TV programs that we'd watch and love that. So I think it's a great thing to have this discussion about a craft.
I also think, well, I'd like to think that you and I are just normal people as well, and I think the fact that we have so many people agree with us also shows that we can't be massively off point. Otherwise, we'd be overwhelmed with comments saying that it was not right and anything like that. The fact that not just us two just sat here having a rant like those two Muppets in the theatre, those two old men. The fact that you go to the comments, and like you said, okay, last week was a bumper week of comments, but people are agreeing and people are saying, well, actually, yes, and I understand this, and like you say, it's just being able to know that you're not going crazy on your own and thinking you're the only one that thinks that.
To finish off, I think this coming up though might be the comment of the series. This is from Tom's, good old Tom's Crafts. Read this. Esme famously dislikes brown, so Patrick's shirt must have horrified her. Patrick famously dislikes purple, so Esme's nails must have horrified him, because they were her nails in that episode. With that momentum, naturally they chose a brown garment of the week and a purple garment of the week. Mystery solved. How good is that? Oh, I
But
love it.
I know that sounds ridiculous, but again, through editing, we've learnt those factors, and then you stand there and he's dressed in all brown, she's got purple nails on, we've got a brown and a purple costume, and then we've got a week where they're obviously arguing, and
Yeah.
and that's where you're like, well, have the judges been influenced too much by their personal things instead of just looking at the sewing and going that? And as an audience, we can only take what we're given by the editors when it's put out.
Yeah.
So you are going to look at it like that because we don't know any different.
Absolutely. So,
But it was funny.
wasn't it just? So, who did we lose? Yes, we lost Gaynor. So, there are our four semi finalists standing next to each other as we go into the semi final. And we've been saying right from the beginning how superb all of these sewers were. It's been a phenomenal series. As you rightly said, we weren't throwing any slippers at all, and it felt a bit weird chatting about it and not moaning, but just non-stop celebrating. But there we are, four into the semi-final, and it is, if I push this button here and reveal it, it was 1920s week. Well, we all love a bit of Charleston every time it appears on Strictly, don't we? I love the Charleston dance. Do you like that? Were you looking forward to seeing this 1920s week, Ting?
I think, I mean, I know we have to have a variety of different weeks, and we always moan about, things, whether they're inspired by and everything like that. But having a theme like this where you can pick, you could go for any
Yeah.
decade, and I think they have done the 40s and that in the past and stuff like that. But you can pick a time frame, and there is always a very defining look. And we saw that, I don't want to go too much into it, with the made to measure later on. But that's where you think, well, how much do we have to have these inspired by controversial, kind of judging and making, when actually you could easily work your way through the decades and have an iconic outfit for every 10 years.
And in the 1920s, were you expecting plus fours?
I hope you're not implying that I was around 100 years ago. It was a bit of a shock, yes, because they're not even something you'd perhaps see around today. But then equally, that's also a good test because people won't have sat at home making them, in the
Yeah.
past either.
And we
It
were
is, can you read a pattern?
we were saying about men's clothing, the idea
Well,
that racing and golf, wasn't it? That idea. And there's the pattern example, more brown. And
it would have been for your golfing or your shooting or whatever.
indeed, we were. The idea was they had 5 hours, so I was like, they are giving them time, and they had to make these plus fours. The elements that were going to be looked at were the fly with the zip, pockets, and then those cuffs below the knee with a strap and buckle. And let's go back to that.
I'm not going to lie,
picture.
I don't get it. I feel that they would be really uncomfortable. I don't understand why people would wear them.
I suppose it's the freedom of some of the leg down the bottom, and then also they were quite loose up top. So moving around in them it's like being. Can you remember MC Hammer? It's kind of that style,
Well,
isn't it?
it's nothing like that. But I suppose they are an element. They're a costume of their time because we don't see them now, and I think that is because they probably are a bit impractical. I can see how they've developed out of the modesty of the
Yeah.
Victorian era coming into the Edwardian era, all of that, and you start to get that bit more risque, and they were for both men and women. But equally, I was like, well, I get it as a challenge. I can't see anyone rushing out today to buy their plus four patterns to have a go. I don't think.
But look at that crispness of the wool
Oh,
being
absolutely.
pressed. It looks
Yeah.
stunning. So we were going to go into wool again, and they did hint on that, didn't they? Who has learned from the week before with their choice of wools? Are they going to go heavy? Are they going to go light? Are they going to think about that? That was an issue straight away. But we have Kaz, Kit, Orla, and Yasmin. And as they started, going into it, choosing their wools, we already had some foreshadowing going, because it was like, and I had to write this. Where is it? I wrote it down somewhere. Oh yes, Kit almost swore. I think I've gone for the thickest bloody fabric in the world. And Orla was saying, oh, she did learn from last week, and she'd gone for a lighter fabric. So we're now thinking, oh, this is going to be interesting. But it was a good watch, that first 15 minutes, because Kit dared to say it, didn't he? Oh, didn't they? The confidence of going, I've made many a trousers, I can do it well. That must have been an editor's dream moment. This is like, but clearly seeing the outcome, it's like, I'd like to know how many competition programs there have been where someone says right at the beginning, yes, I've made billions of these, I could do it. Has it happened on the Bake Off where they've gone, I've made billions of Victoria sponges, I can do it, and then suddenly at the other end,
But it has happened here before, when people have said they've made skirts or kilts or whatever, when there has been so, and it is an editor's dream, because of course the way the challenge played out, the choice of fabric that Kit had chosen was too thick, and while there was some recognition by them that might be a problem, I also feel that's, if you're recognizing that yourself, then maybe you do need to take a step back and go, have I got the right thing here? And ultimately, they didn't lie about it. They said this is a sporting wear, and unfortunately, the fabric that Kit chose, you were just like, how would you wear that with it? It was too thick. It might have been a nice color, but you have to kind of put it into the context of what you're about to do. And the pressing and the buckle and the sewing through really thick wool is not going to get you the look.
Yeah, I just felt for them right from the beginning. It's like, oh no, for this whole round now, our eyes are on Kit, because he says they say they could do it, and I think, what about that bit when Patrick came up? I'm assuming you haven't looked all the way through the instructions, and Kit just went, oh, I know how trousers are made. I could possibly make it without even looking at the pattern. And it's like, oh no, everyone's going to be looking at you now, Kit. The pressure on him must have been immense for the rest of that round.
It's very easy for us to sit here having watched it, but you do have to be careful with things like that. And they may have made a load of trousers in the past, but these weren't the same. And while there were issues at the top, the big issue was the buckle. And again, that's where, we know from the introduction that Kit has only really been sewing for about a year.
Yeah.
And, we've said that they've managed really well with the pattern challenge. I think it's partly because of his maths background and being able to work out all of those things like that. And it's really great to have someone on the program who has a relatively short sewing journey.
Yeah.
But there is also that thing of, when you've been sewing for a while, having that understanding of patterns and fabric weights and what is and isn't really going to work. And that really does only come with experience. Yeah. And, that's not a massive criticism of Kit, because they have only been sewing for a year. And they'll learn from this and moving forward and making things. And I think, it's not just Kit. We've seen in other programs where someone's fell in love with a particular fabric and they've gone on to use it, and then it just doesn't work because it's too thin, it's too thick, it's too shiny, it's too movie or whatever. But that is also part of the judging of this task. It's about, do the sewers have a feel for what that fabric needs to be to actually function, in this case, as a pair of +4s.
Well, and Orla made the right decision. She was considering what happened last week and chose the lighter fabric. And just look at that. You could,
to be fair,
could see the crispness.
Golfing or whatever, I'd want the lighter fabric.
Absolutely.
I'd be sweating bullets in that purple one.
And then we have Kaz and Yasmin, who went for that decision for print and check. Did they think at the time about pattern matching? Did they fall in love with the fabric
Well,
straight
well,
away?
Yasmin, absolutely not, because she was like, "I've never pattern matched. I'm not pattern matching. I'm not going to start now." But then that would have been, you should have chosen something a little less in your face if you
Well,
were going to.
that that is a small check. Would you ever worry about trying to match that on a pair of trousers anyway? Does that need pattern matching at that smallness?
But then you say that, but then look at the waistband. That simply needs to move by about a quarter of an inch, and it would have been matched at the
Yeah.
top. And that, in that respect, is not that difficult. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Kaz's was a small check. That would have been nice sewing that with your quarter
You
of
can
inch
get away
seam.
with that.
Yeah.
I feel for Yasmin, hers was such a big check that if you were going to pattern match, you really had to. This one, you could get away with it by losing it in the pleats and everything and saying, well, I've done the best I can, but the check is quite small. I think the trouble with Yasmin is she fell in love with that fabric, but the check was too big and it should have been pattern matched. So maybe, a different fabric choice there. Because Yasmin's sewing wasn't terrible.
No.
They kind of picked on the pattern matching more than anything else.
It it was actually a very good round. In fact, I felt the sewers, because there were only four of them, they all suddenly got themselves embroiled in this extra challenge of racing. Who's got to the sewing the quickest? Who's cut out
Yeah.
the pattern? And they were like, "Oh my god, you've already got enough pressure on yourself for 5 hours. Now you're putting semi-pressure and more pressure on yourself against each other." Oh, yes, they've cut theirs out now. And I'm like, oh my word. Watching it, I felt even more stressed. The judges were going to have to work hard on the analysis of these, weren't they?
Oh, yes, because other than the struggles that Kit had with the fabric, and we could see that, in the finished garment, but the other three, they were being really nitpicky, going, "Oh, well, is the zip bulging a little bit here and a little bit there?" And it's like, well, if I put them on, it'd be bulging because, well, the minute you start to wear them, there's always a little bit tighter where it shouldn't be, and so on.
Yeah. So did you have an outright winner when you look at the four at this pattern challenge?
No, because I was swayed by Orla's fabric. I just thought that she made the right choice of fabric, and I suppose then you could say yes, Orla was my winner, but that's because I also liked the fabric,
Yeah.
and I have to be careful that because I spend every week criticizing Esme for choosing things just because of the fabric. I think the sewing, it was not an easy pattern, and of course it wasn't. They gave them 5 hours to do it. If it was easy, it'd have been 2 hours. So I think what we saw was actually good from all of them. Again, we've
Yeah.
always said that it's difficult to split them this year.
As the pattern challenge went on, I have to say, I've been enjoying Sarah a lot over the last 2 or 3 weeks. Is it me, or has she just suddenly clicked into the program? Because her chatter amongst the contestants now seems to be like proper serious chatter that we would want to ask them. So she was going up to Kit going, "Right, so I think you've won 99% of the patterns now." And then Kit went, "Well, we've had 8 so far. I've won 6." And she was like, "Well, I was just trying to." And I just liked her analysis there. But even more pressure on Kit. So we're now going. Is he? He's got to come first or second. Otherwise, it's just going to be And of course, where did he come, Ting?
Well,
He was
fourth,
fourth. Yeah. And he was fourth. Kaz was third. Yasmin was second, and Orla was first. But you could argue what was in between them. Yes, he is in. They are in fourth, but they're not fourth as in a long way off, are they? It was close
oh no.
between them all, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, but that's why I was saying they were, being very picky
Yeah,
about minor things because that's how you split them.
yeah.
Um,
And that's what we
yeah,
want from our judges, isn't it? That's
and I
proper.
think yes, and I think it's important to say that before the show even started, I had no idea what was going to happen this week. The last couple of weeks we've kind of gone, well, maybe it's Gainer, maybe it's
Yeah,
so and so, maybe it's whatever. It was always going to be every single challenge was going to be important, and I think even after the first two, I said to you, it doesn't really matter what's happened in the first half
yeah,
of the show. It's really going to come down to that made to measure as well. because you couldn't even turn around and go, well, Kit was at the bottom of every other challenge, or Kaz was struggling with this, that, and the other. There was various elements in different places, and yeah, you then just got to the point where you're like, well, the made to measure is surely going to have to
Absolutely.
decide what was
But I,
going on. Yeah,
but I still didn't.
but but with Kit coming
Yeah,
forth, it
that.
was that sudden pit of the stomach moment, which
Yeah,
we've had every series at
yeah,
some point, where you go, somebody's having a bad week.
absolutely.
And it was kind of like, I hope it doesn't continue.
Yeah,
But it was just like, as well, in their own words, they've won 6 out of the
yeah,
8 or whatever.
yeah.
And it was just to
It's.
have that go. I mean, not so wrong, but so wrong for
I
them.
know.
It was then
I
like,
know.
is it, because what happens is it knocks your confidence.
Well,
So it's filmed over a couple of days, and you then come out of
yeah,
there going, oh, I was bottom, and actually they criticize quite heavily in different places, and it gets into your head.
yeah, absolutely.
So,
But
it is that, because there was no kind of going into the episode thinking, oh, well, it will probably be so and so this week. It was kind of like, I don't know where it's going to go. And then you see Kit have a problem there, and then you're like, oh, is this the week that is a bad week for him? Without, because none of the others seem to have the same scale of problem.
no.
And because we didn't know what was going to happen, it was then kind of like, eek, is that time for them to go?
But didn't that first round make such good telly? because
I think because
because
of that as well,
they
it put,
said that at the beginning, and we're all
yeah, it just
oh
put the cat amongst the
yeah,
pigeons, really, because we've become so used to Kit doing so
yeah,
well, especially in the pattern challenge, that with nothing separating them, whoever would have been fourth, you and I would have gone, oh God, is that it?
yeah, yeah,
Because what else were you going to
yeah,
choose between when it came to this week?
absolutely. So a big like bottom, but the idea that they didn't get the win, but great kudos for Orla, who I think had come second several times, and she got
Yeah.
her first pattern challenge win. Brilliant. But yes, what a great episode we're in now, going into round two, the transformation challenge. Me sporting my polo shirt, because we go to the transformation challenge one. There we go. Patrick said, talked about the polo shirt and how it started life as a tennis shirt. Yeah, the famous Lacoste ones from Relais Lacoste. They were to take 5 polos each and make a colour blocked garment of your choice. So that could do anything as long as it's colour blocked. I'd never really heard of the term colour blocked. I kind of guessed what it could mean. I just presumed blocking colours next to each other. So
Oh, it's your intelligence that brings me back every week.
it was going to be interesting. I suppose from a patchwork, I think I would have gone definitely classic patchwork and done like lots of piecing together and made almost a four classic 4 patch or a 9 patch. And Esme then said, what we want to see is impactful. We love that word, don't we? Used a lot. Colour blocked design. Any ideas what you would have done, Ting, on this?
Um, I, well, you see, in your head, you kind of think, well, yes, the color blocking, you're looking for, literally butting right up against each other with those colors, and it can be, you don't want it uniform, you don't necessarily want it to be, perfect quarters,
Yeah.
but it is that kind of thing. So, it naturally leans towards a dress, maybe asymmetrical, or, like a midi or a mini dress sort of thing that you can then mix and match those colors in. And I loved the use of, I think it was Yasmin who used the plackets as the
Yeah.
fastening down the back.
Let's have a
Those
look.
sorts of interesting features. They're the sort of things you would perhaps have looked at, maybe.
And here are the results of colour blocking. And I think they're quite varied in approaches.
It was very different. I mean, there is only 4 of them, so you're not likely to see a lot of repeats than if there'd been 8 people and they would have had people with similar ideas. But they were vastly different. Yeah.
Did you have a favourite?
I I kind of liked the concept of Yasmin's, but I think she and obviously the judges realised that that black at the front didn't quite work. Um, and it doesn't look like they had to do, although they could have five shirts, it didn't look like they had to use all five. So I think she even said maybe it should have been the navy colour because there was a navy blue on the back. And I think that would have calmed it down a bit. And then, I think that is a reasonable 90-minute make, I think,
Yeah.
as well. And wearable.
I I understand Patrick's point about the black, but I actually think it worked to pop the other two. I don't think my eye
I think it was
attract.
too harsh.
You think?
I think because the other colour is a navy blue, and I think that would have just toned it down a little bit. The black was a bit harsh, I think.
But her back, though, I think got slightly overlooked. I thought that was very clever
Yeah, yeah.
use of the polo, which remember is what it is, the transformation challenge, and that block effect there. And
But I don't know. I don't know if there were only 20 shirts there, i.e., was the black one the only one left that she could have had, or was it just an unfortunate, in that manic grab because you've only got 90
yeah,
minutes, but in that manic grab, thinking, oh yeah, I'll be able to do something with that black, and then of course once you've started, you can't turn around and go, oh, can I throw that one away? I want a different one. So she's tried to make it work. I don't know how stringent they were that you had to see all five, and whether actually just leaving it out might have been better.
and Allers who went for the color block
It
in
was a
that
very
respect.
different.
I
It's
thought so.
not what I would have
No.
gone as in terms of color blocking. Um, I think she dodged a bit of a bullet with the judging because they were like, "Oh, this is a bit unique," and that, and it was just kind of like, the color blocking is what I'm seeing in the other three.
Yeah.
I like the idea of what she's done, but I don't know if that would be color blocking, or you could argue, I suppose it's more modern. But
Absolutely. And what colour blocking absolutely is, someone else's interpretation of it could be something
yeah.
completely different.
Well, yes, but I would have said that color blocking is what the other three were. If you stopped me in the street and said what would it would be, what the other three have done.
What, the use of multiple colours rather than, because that is
Well,
just
no,
two.
but the way it's blocked in
Okay.
a big swathe of the fabric, not the way she'd done it with the swirls and everything.
Let's have a quick look at the others, individual ones. We've got Kit, if I can get it, showing up. Kit, who cleverly had the idea of going down the amorphous route of Esme. Whether that was planned or just suddenly thought of on the spot, it worked though, didn't it? Those
It
three
worked,
colours.
it did, and you're right. Is it something where you're just like, oh, this is what I'm going to do? But I think it was last series, wasn't it, that the amorphous dress was actually one of the makes.
Yeah.
So it's a difficult one because you've got 90 minutes. How much of it should be your own idea? But then everything is always based on something.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And 90 minutes is 90 minutes.
Yeah.
But again, because it's something that had been done in a previous year and it was so recognizable as that. And of course, it doesn't help that you've got Esme just going, "Oh, it's the amorphous dress. I love the amorphous dress." It's like, yeah,
Yes.
keep drawing everyone's attention to
Yeah.
it. Just judge it for what it
Yeah.
is, and not keep, reminding everyone
Yeah.
that we've been there, done that before.
Yeah. Which, for what it was, the three colours, colour blocking, and the idea of the D rings.
Oh, this was absolutely what color blocking
Yeah.
was to me. Yeah.
And then there's just where's Kaz?
Well, I hope you've got the back of Kaz's because
I
unfortunately the front.
haven't. No, I haven't. Annoyingly.
I felt sorry for her
Yeah.
because the back was actually quite good.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the judges said as well. And they liked the use of the halter neck top and the use of the part of the sleeve, I think it was, where that beading came from. But the front just looked a bit flat compared to the back. And even she said afterwards, it was like, I just didn't really think about the front. And I think this is a difficult one because in 1920s week, and we're saying the polo shirt invented in that time, which is why it was used in this thing. But then to me, Kaz also kind of went, oh, 1920s with the dropped waist and everything. So did she think that she had to do something that
20s
fitted in
ish.
with the week.
Yeah.
Whereas the other three just went, oh, all we've got to
Yeah.
do, which was totally correct, which was just take these shirts and make something. The 1920s thing was the polo shirt.
Yeah.
It didn't have to be the final design. But I wonder if Kaz had just got too into her own head, and bearing in mind what she makes in a moment, and just gone, oh, I'll have a dropped hip. And that's 1920s
Yeah.
sort of style and
Yeah.
everything like that.
And yeah, you're right. It was a right judging point. And as you say, she commented when they said it. It's like, oh yeah. So the standings there was Yasmin on the far left. There was bottom, fourth out of the four. Then Kaz third, Orla second, and Kit first. So if you're Kit fans, you would have been going, phew, right, that takes away pressure off from the first round. So it kind of evens it out. And it did mean that, didn't it? That going into the made to measure, it could have been anyone. It's down to the final. To get into the get into the final, you now need a best made to measure. Simple as that now, isn't it?
Yeah. And many an episode has ended this way, even when we've had quite a lot of sewers, and especially this series where they've been so good, you just get to the point where you're like, well, it doesn't really matter what's happened in those previous two rounds. Whoever does not pull it off or does pull it off in the made to measure, that's going to kind of dictate the standings.
So the made to measure. Let's see what the brief is like. Is it going to be better than last week's? Because so far the made to measure briefs have been pretty brilliant. So out of the 8 episodes we've had so far, 5 hours to make an outfit for a 1920s special event. Okay, they gave some examples because that was quite a vague and open task.
Well, it's a going out outfit, isn't it?
You could do a gala. I can't even read my own writing there. Sarah said something before gala. Twunk gala? No, I can't. Oh dear. A debutante ball, or using the telephone for the first time that happened in the 1920s. So they had to do some research, and you can clearly see they had done some thinking, because let's go. I've got all the 4 designs next to each other. So we've got Kaz going for a release day party about Katie McCormick, who ran the nightclubs in London, who got arrested, and then she came out and she had a massive party. Kaz said, I want to go to that party, which was wonderful. We had Kit telling us the story about Miss Eldorado, the club the El Dorado Club, the gay bar in Berlin in 1929. We had Yasmin talking about how you perhaps safely signify your preferences of your sexuality, and coming up with the sailor outfit. And then Orla, the flapper vote in 1928 for young girls being able to vote. So some lovely ideas there, wouldn't you say, Ting?
Oh yes, and that's where they kind of come into their own here with doing the research and trying to not make it. Well, obviously it has to fit the brief, but to really try and make it as authentic as possible.
Absolutely. 1920s. Do you look at those and go, they're all 1920s? Can you instantly recognise that? Not that that's part of the judging, but it sometimes helps, doesn't it?
Yes,
because they are all obvious
gone,
from Kit's for mine, but I could see the references a little in Kit. So, but yeah, I could see them in the 20s.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say, I loved the sailor one right from the beginning. Yasmin, as soon as you showed that idea, I just thought, you've got this. There's going to be something about it. Partly because, was she playing a blinder with going, I ain't going near chiffon. I'm not doing all that flappery stuff and all that, the issues with fabric. Did she really think when she was doing her research, keep away from that? Because if she did, brilliant.
Maybe she did. Maybe she didn't. Maybe she wanted to make that outfit, and that's just fitted in with the brief. Which, I would have said that was the case, judging by the way she spoke about the outfit and her
Yeah.
reasons for doing it. I think you're right. It does avoid that, but then equally, she creates a lot of work with herself with the well, it's not piping, but the tape and the pleats,
Should,
and
should we have a look?
that in itself is an issue, isn't it?
Let's
In terms of the time and effort that goes into that.
let's go into it and have a look. Yasmin, and let's bring them up here. Because of those pleats and that, what was it? Double? I mean, we've had, when we were doing our, can you remember our,
It was a double reverse box plate or something like that.
oh,
But I was struggling.
yeah, let's see if I've got a close up of it. Yasmin,
Well,
oh no, that's the, oh, I just look at that though. How
the only thing,
neat.
the only thing that I would have criticised it over is I would have liked the blue to be a bit of a deeper blue.
Oh, oh, right. I know. I loved the lightness of that blue. You wanted it more navy.
Well, for the navy.
Oh, okay.
But I suppose that is the thing for the actual Royal Navy. It is a navy
Yes.
color. I mean, I can't think where they got the name from, but yeah. I mean, I don't know if that was more an authentic sort of blue that would have been in that sort of outfit. I don't know. Again, I can't sit here and say I didn't like the outfit because of the color, because otherwise I'll have Esme having a right go at me the same way I have a go at her. I loved the outfit. I loved everything about it. But the blue on the bottom of the white
Yes.
is a darker blue.
Yeah.
And I would have liked to have seen it all in that dark blue. Because when it was being made and it was on the table, I was actually really concerned about it because I thought it looked too like costumey.
Oh, okay. Right.
It didn't once it was on. It looked
Yeah.
wonderful when it was on. But when you're kind of looking at it, and you're still in that position where we're like, well, we still don't know who's going home. And I was just like, oh, is it going to look too much like a fancy dress costume? And I didn't know if that was partly down to the blue as well. But I mean, it absolutely works. And it's just a personal preference. It wouldn't stop me from saying that this is a fabulous make, and the sewing is meticulous.
I kind of enjoyed the editing of this as well because we started seeing issues with Kit, which we'll get to in a minute when we talk about theirs. And we started suddenly getting issues with Yasmin, like, have I got time to get this hat? Have I got time? And I don't know whether that was an editing
Well,
thing or whether she actually had it under control all the way through.
you do have to edit a bit in like
Yeah.
that though, don't you? Because otherwise you're just going to sit there and go,
Well,
oh well,
we know who's
Kit's
going.
going home.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's got to be some, even when they cut to the judges at the end, you can't just turn around and go at that point, well, there's clearly someone going home and the other three are safe. They have to create an illusion of there is a bit of
Yeah.
competition for going home.
Let's go back to our alphabetical order because I went to Yasmin straight away because I loved it. Sorry, Yasmin.
I'm
Putting
sure
you
she's not complaining.
true. Let's look at Kaz's, who had gone for this party to celebrate the coming out, and look at that embroidered lace sort of bit that she
Well,
bound.
so I think I missed that in the kind of introduction of what it was going to look like. And again, the same way, like for Yasmin's, I was like, oh, is it going to look like a costume? As Kaz was making this, again, because, in reality, it's still anyone could have gone home. I was kind of like, oh my God, is it too simple? And then obviously there was a little bit of an issue. It was a little too tight over the hips,
Yeah.
but, fair enough. But as soon as she started doing that waistcoat, I was suddenly like, oh, it's going to be fine because that's actually going to set it off perfectly. And that
Oh, sorry,
layering
not
of,
wrong.
lace, that lacy stuff over the top of the dresses, that is a very 1920s type of thing to do as well. It just added to the overall effect of doing it, fitting into the era.
And also, that fabric, you can't rush with that, can you? I think,
No.
if I remember rightly, Lizzie, I'm sure our Lizzie from season 10 used this fabric at some point, and you've got to go slow because of it will just
It
show
just
straight
slips and
away.
slides. It
Yeah,
slips and
yeah,
slides, and the minute there's just a tiny little tug, not even a massive thing,
yeah.
it just shows every flaw.
But time management as well, because she knew she was going to have to sew that beading on the front there by hand, making sure you got enough time left there. Oh, wonderful.
Well, I actually loved the overall silhouette,
Yeah.
the style. I thought it was very 1920s.
Then we've got Kit. Let's go to Kit's, who, as this went on, that last 20 minutes, for your Kit fans, yeah, you must have. Oh no, what's happening here? It what was it?
Go on.
Time management? Did they just miss out time? I've not seen Kit this, but as you say, was it from yesterday that knocked their confidence a little bit?
I mean, it could be. I have a theory, but it is only my own theory, and I know absolutely nothing. Um, there was a little bit of foreshadowing at the start before
Okay.
they started, or just after they started, when it was pointed out that Kit had drafted his own pattern, yet the other three were using
Oh
1920s patterns.
yes.
And I don't have a problem with people drafting their own patterns. As Patrick pointed out, it is a tremendous skill.
Yeah.
And okay, it doesn't make up part of this challenge, but the amount of work that would have gone into drafting that pattern so that they could then use it on the
Yeah.
show, is way more than searching through patterns online to find something that you would use. We're not here to judge whether drafting or using a pattern is better or worse than the other, but when the issue was, and this is why I was a little bit wary when you asked me the question, the reason the other three looked like the 1920s is because they had used 1920s patterns
Right.
that had taken in all of the detail and understood what was in demand at that time about the low waist, the slight, the
Yeah.
going over the hips and everything else like that. Kit had obviously done their research and designed their own pattern, but even by their own admission, this is 1929, which is why it looks slightly different to what would have been an early 20s or
Yeah.
mid 20s,
I
low
see.
waisted, with the way it was. But also, and again, not to kind of rain on Kit's parade, but we know from the introduction and everything else like that that he's only been sewing for a year. And when you're drafting your own patterns, it is an incredible skill, but because of the short amount of time that he's been doing it, he doesn't necessarily understand that comes with experience and time all the nuances of getting something that
Yeah.
is period correct. And again, I don't know whether you picked up on it, but at the start there was still I think it was Patrick that had said we have tried to nail this down, we want it 1920s, we want it to be for this going out thing, and then we hear that three people are using 1920s patterns and somebody else has drafted their own, which, as we fully appreciate, is a skill. But that's why I think it stood
Yeah.
out a little bit as not
Okay.
fully fitting in the 1920s. And also, patterns that have been used have been done over and over again. They're
Yeah.
tested. They know where things go wrong. And Kit, although they said they'd had a practice, that's only them and their opinion.
Yeah.
Whereas someone else would have said, well, this needs to be tighter, this needs to be lower, this needs to be sewn in here, you've got to put this in first so that it fits in, sew it inside out. There's not that feedback. And I think, it's just my theory based on a few throwaway lines from Patrick and everything
No.
there. But I think that is possibly why Kit then started to get into a bit of trouble, because if it was a commercial pattern, you'd look at it and know that it had been done hundreds of
Yeah.
times and that you're probably doing the right thing. But when it's your own, you don't actually know whether that is supposed to sit
Yeah.
like that or whether that's in exactly the right place to give you the fit, the shape, the silhouette that you want. And I think that's possibly, in my opinion,
Well, you
where
think no? It's
the difference
I
between
can see
that came up.
when you look back at their made to measures over 8 weeks. I just don't think I've seen them so. Oh right. just pressed for time. The one for Art
Well,
Fashion Week, it was all drilled,
so
whereas this
the
just
other
seemed. Go on.
well, the other part to my theory is as well that when you draft your own patterns for the sewing bee on an inspired by challenge, you've got a huge margin of error because you can sit there and go, well, I was inspired by the color, or I
Yeah.
was inspired by that leaf pattern, which is why I've done
Yeah.
this. Whereas we were told, and again by Patrick at the start, that we've pinned this one down. We want to make sure that it
Yeah.
fits down. Those were his words. And the trouble is when you're drafting a pattern and the judges are saying, oh, it's got to be pinned down to the 1920s to this event, and it's got to look the part. Well, then it has to look like a 1920s dress, and you can't say that, oh, well, mine has a little bit of extra flounce or another row of ruffles or whatever, that because it's not an inspired by challenge anymore. It's this is what it is. And the irony is that Kit got a lot of grief last week for saying, had he essentially copied a Doctor Who outfit, and then he comes along with this one and does his own idea when he would have been better off copying a 1920s
Yeah.
outfit. And I think, to me, that was kind of how I
I see.
rationalised it, because he is a brilliant sewer, and I think he got more, or they got more and more frustrated that they couldn't do the
Yeah.
beading, and then it
Yeah.
wasn't, and then it, like we said earlier, it all snowballs.
Yeah.
But I think part of that comes down to, if they'd had a reliable 1920s pattern,
Well, it would have taken
they
the
would have felt a
pressure
bit
off.
safer
Yeah.
in what they were
Absolutely.
doing.
But look at that chiffon, those layers of chiffon that they would have had to have dealt
Oh,
with first of all.
absolutely. I'd also like to point out last week that apparently doing a rolled hem for Gaynor was, terrible. And then this week, apparently it was the best thing that could have ever
It,
happened. And
it,
again, that's a judge's issue,
yes.
that just annoyed me again.
Gaynor, you would have done brilliantly. You would have loved this challenge. Gaynor would have done. Look at all
Gaynor has
that.
had that rolled hem done in
Yeah.
a blink of an eye, but apparently last week that wasn't good enough.
But it was definitely stressful seeing Kit just
Yeah,
wobble and
yeah.
like, oh God, are they going to get it finished? Unheard of for the last 8 weeks. Let's move on to Orla. There's her flapper vote dress. Oh, this to me
I
was
really liked it.
exquisite.
I did
Yeah,
really like it. Yeah, I think the color was great. I love the fact, even though I don't think it was a massive criticism, but they were like, "Oh, everything's going on in the back." Well, perfect, because that's
yeah.
what you want to be seen. You
Look,
want to be seen
look at that
from
back.
behind and everyone talking about you. So, and the sewing. I mean, you can even see it there.
Yeah,
The sewing was just exquisite as well, because again, like Kaz, she's got that fabric where one little tweak, one little stretch, and it's all over for you. That neckline, how she did that
yeah.
neckline so perfectly. I think, wow.
And the finding of that braid and then adding it into the hat as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
She is something for sure. And then,
Well, you've already
oh,
spoken
we
about
talked about
Yasmin
everyone.
at great length because that was your favourite.
Oh, yes, sorry. Yes, we have, haven't we? Well, did you have a favourite then? Would you, if you were going right? My favourite is it this one for you?
Well, so by the time, I mean, not that she hasn't been a favourite, for a number of weeks, but by the time we got to the end of this, I was just in awe of Orla, partly because of her age and what she's able to do as well. But she's able to take, like, even I know you're saying about using a commercial pattern, but she used it as the basis of what she wanted to do and then made it
Yeah,
her own.
yeah,
I mean, they all did that. Don't get me wrong, they all did that. But you know, having said what I've just said about drafting your own pattern, the basic pattern gave her a safety net for her to then explore, other avenues to make it look, just elevate the look a little bit more, because she knew the basics were there. And again, her sewing is just outstanding for someone so young. Which I have to say that now because I'm so old, but it is it.
she is young. I missed her age. Is she?
Well, I want to say
19.
she's 18 because I thought she's either just left school or whatever. And then I was like, oh, I don't know. And I meant to look it up before we came on tonight. But she is young.
Yeah.
She's in that ballpark, let's put it that way.
It,
But I think, the plus fours,
yeah.
I wasn't too keen on the one in the middle, but the plus fours and this, it just highlighted that she can follow a pattern and she understands fabric and that she can, do exceptionally well in these tasks. She's also got young eyes. I'd be spending most of my time straining, trying to read the instructions and find the eye of the needle. But I think she's got that creativity bubbling up inside of her, and
Well,
she's just been able to kind of keep it
I
ticking over.
I like that expression because you that bubbling up was coming through in her chats to Sarah all of this
Yeah,
episode. Fun,
yeah,
oh, giggly. It was almost the dam that we lost many episodes ago, wasn't
yes,
it? The funness there. I don't think, other than that week where we thought she wasn't going to have a transformation challenge, was it last week, wasn't it? The last
yeah,
15
with the
minutes.
curtains. Yeah,
I don't think I've seen her flustered. She just seems to be, yeah, I'll just do it. It'll just happen. It will. So, and yesterday, this episode just gone,
yesterday.
she just, there was confidence, but it never came across as well, it never came across as arrogant. It just felt she knew what she was doing,
Yeah.
and she was confident that she could get there. And it was just a pleasure to watch. I think, wasn't it? So,
And I think,
go on.
I mean, I've assumed that she's 18 because I'm pretty sure that's what it was. But because of like my job and what I do, I'm a sixth form tutor. I have 16, 17, 18-year olds. I see them every day. And so part of me is like, that could be one of my students. I mean, any of
Yeah,
them could have been because I'm that old. But, at this point in time, it's almost like you could go into work tomorrow and see her sat there and just go, oh my God, I can't believe how well you did.
I know.
It's that kind of thing. I get a little bit, the teacher in me gets very protective of her as if she was in my form group and anyone wants to come for her, I'll willingly give them
Yeah.
a slap.
But garment of the week, of course, was going to go to Yasmin. There were so many skills there, and
Yeah.
it fitted the brief, an outfit for a 1920 special event. Well, there were several ideas in that special event. It was just,
I
just
think
great.
I'm not saying that it was wrong. I mean, but last week we had two winners, But I think it was difficult between Yasmin and Orla. I think Kaz's slight misfit on the hips with that very observant fabric that will stab you in the back as quick as look at you, meant that she wasn't going to get garment of the week. But it also wasn't bad enough for you to think Kaz is really in trouble. Unfortunately, everything that had happened to Kit, and we end up with
Yeah,
safety pins and tacking stitches and everything like that. There wasn't really. I would have been shocked had they not gone home. Let's put it that way. But to me, Yasmin or Orla could have taken that
yeah,
this week. Which lines up for next week a very interesting show because nothing against Yasmin, but she has been the dark horse. She's kind of been in the background.
yeah,
She's had a couple of bad sows along the way, especially earlier on,
yeah,
but she's coming to her own here just at the right time.
yeah,
And she gets garment of the week before the final. She's in the final. There is every possibility. Well, there's every possibility that any one of those three
yeah. Well,
would be able to take the crown there. And I think we could have said that about any of the last five people who have
oh,
been
absolutely.
eliminated.
Well,
It has been an exceptional
yeah.
series
Well,
this year
let's
for
talk about
starters.
that. Let's talk about that now because we did have to. Oh, not say goodbye to Gaynor.
Bye, Gaynor.
We had to say goodbye to Kit.
Yes.
We kind of knew it was coming, though. Felt for them because they were saying, "I just want to get to the final." So that was a hard watch. It was a hard watch. Not only seeing them not do so well in the pattern challenge like they have done for the last 7 episodes, and then see not only coming second but being at the bottom, then the struggle in that last made to measure. But It was Kit. I don't think it was ever going to be. Is it Kaz? Is it Kit? Is it Kaz? Was it? It was the right decision.
I mean, I I think, like we said, we went into the made to measure, and it still could have been anyone. Anyone
Yeah.
could have had a bad day, and Kaz's wasn't a bad day, but hers was the only one they could really say there was a little bit of a problem with the fit on the hips. But as that make went on, and I'd like to think that I know we didn't do all 11 series, but everyone who's been watching us for the past 4, 5, 6 years, or however long we've been doing it, we've always called them out on their bad editing. We've always gone, oh well, there's this foreshadowing, oh there's this, and there was still a little part of me that goes, are they actually going to send them home? Will it be Kaz? But from the years of watching, and there's what, 9 episodes, 10 episodes every series, we've kind of cottoned on to how they edit it, and I would have been very shocked had they not gone home based on what had just happened. And I'd like to think that our viewers of our channel, we started talking about how it's a little community, and we all talk to each other about things like this, and the editing is predictable.
Yeah.
As much as we'd like it not to be,
Yeah.
it is. And I think it was inevitable, having watched that last 10 minutes.
It was a hard watch, but we do have our 3 finalists. And I think for the first time for me, in watching the Sewing Bee, I don't want a particular winner. I'm going to watch next week and thoroughly enjoy watching it because
Really?
there is no pressure, because if Kaz wins it, I'll be over the moon. If Yasmin wins it, I'll be over the moon. If Ola wins it, I'll be over the moon. It's just going to be a lovely watch. Whereas normally I really, really want someone to watch it, so I'm sat at the end of my seat, going, oh no, go on, oh, what's happening? Oh no, they've had a bad round. I am just going to be loving it next week because I want any one of them to win it, because they have been brilliant all the way through. It has been an exceptional series from that point of view. So that's me.
Coming closer. Coming closer.
Come on.
I'm going to go for Orla.
Okay. You're going to go...
Don't tell anyone else.
Okay,
I'm only telling
okay.
you. Don't tell anyone else.
Well, it has been, out of all the series that we've watched, though, the talent this year has been epic. The producers, other than episode 8, week 8, it has been vastly different, really considered. The briefs, the judging, everything about it. We've not even thrown any slippers today. It goes to show it is definitely different, isn't there? I'm not making that up.
I feel we've had more fun. I still think about Placket Gate, wasn't it? And
Oh,
what
yeah.
was the other one with the neck and everything?
Yes.
My eagle eyes. Me worrying about my eyesight failing, and there I am, eagle-eyed, just like that. We've had a few controversies as we go along, I feel, even if it's not about slippers necessarily.
But you know what I've enjoyed? I've enjoyed talking sewing. And I know we all make different things, and there are other channels, there are other reaction shows where there are vastly, like one of them I watched has got Alistair, who is a actual tailor and a creator and a sewer in the world of sewing, and I'm thinking I'm vastly underqualified here. I do some patchwork, I make my own shirts. Oh, confession.
Oh, here we go. Have we got new dusters, or
You ain't got anything? No, you've got something that's gone in the compost heap to help my tomatoes.
that's what I mean? Have we got dusters instead of a shirt? What happened?
So on my day off Monday, I thought I'll get the collar put on. Now, bear in mind, I've made this shirt.
Is that what I saw fly over the school at some?
It did. Don't laugh.
You and collars are a bit of a nemesis, isn't it?
I can't even show you it because I've got so angry with it. It's disappeared completely. It's sewn on, and I finished it, and it was on the mannequin. But this bit here, oh, which way do I go?
Yeah.
the button bit, the step, not the actual collar. The
Yeah.
step bit was like a little bit like there was a bit of the inside showing, and I was like, that doesn't. No one's going to notice that from a distance. So it didn't bother anyone. You know, it might have been nitpicked by the judges as a little bit squiffy,
Okay.
but it sat there staring at me, and I thought, I could just take it off. I could just
Oh
take it.
no.
I know. I could just take it off and do it.
So you ripped it.
I ripped it, and I was doing so well with my seam ripper. And then I thought, oh, do you know what? I'm a bit rushed. I'll just tug it off. I know,
This
stupid.
is why you don't do it unless we're in the shop together.
I tugged it, and of course, it ripped in several places. The yoke ripped down with a big hole, and I couldn't even sew it together. And of course, I got so angry and
Oh, the
upset.
red mist came, did it?
And it went in the bin, and then an hour later I got really upset. I felt guilty for it, like it was an animal or something. I came up, I took it out of the bin, and I was like, oh, I can't repair it, I can't fix it. Chuck it back in the bin.
But that's exactly what we've said about this whole show, is it? When people come unstuck and you get frustrated, like we've always said, if you were doing it at home, well, clearly not you, but you'd put it down, you'd go and have a cup of tea,
Yeah.
you'd come back,
Yeah.
and our poor sewers, this whole series, oh, you've got 2.5 hours, you've got 90 minutes, you've got 5 hours, you've got 4.5 hours. You can't do that. And then, of course, it does just gnaw down at you that it's not quite right.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
but I would have gone and had that cup of tea before you went any further.
But they've inspired me to sew. So everyone from week one, let's have a quick look at them all before we finish. Come on, let's unhide. Where are they? There we go. Look at them all there. Over 9 weeks. Right from my very first favourite, Peter there. I've only just got over.
It's a death from you, that was.
These people have put themselves up on national telly to show off their skills, to entertain us and inspire us and to talk about it. People have been talking about sewing at work, in the office, at wherever they are, like me in the shop, every day. The Knit and Natter ladies of the morning and the afternoon groups come in and go, did you watch it? Or what did you think of so-and-so going? And it's created debate, it's created conversation, which then develops onto, what are you doing at home? What are you knitting? What are you sewing? Oh, I've just brought a new sewing machine. That is what's so good about the Sewing Bee this year. And I love it. Absolutely love it.
Well, we're not done yet. I
No.
presume that we're meeting next Wednesday as well.
Indeed, but as far as I'm concerned, it's going to be a fabulous show because I've got no stresses, because any one of them can win for me.
Well, I might have slippers to throw if I haven't got my favourite winning.
It's been wonderful having you with us for the last 9 weeks. One more week to go, and we look forward to it. We might even have a little free competition. I'm going to perhaps look at the comments and give some prizes.
Better not be that shirt.
Give some prizes away because we've loved your company. Will you join us for one more week? Let us know in the comments, and we'll see you for the grand final of Series 11 of the Great British Sewing Bee. Cheers, Ting. It's been a pleasure. See you. Bye.
Bye.